All right, Nick. So, how we doing tonight, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Cool, cool. I'm doing good myself. So, before we, get started with the meat of the interview, if you don't mind, can you just tell everyone who's watching a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the bands you've been in, the music you've been a part of?
Yeah, so my name is Nick, and I've been playing guitar for a very long time. I don't know exactly how long at this point, but I was in a pop punk band called This Year's Comeback for a while. After a couple of years, we kind of called it quits. So I'm in a band called PRAXIS now. We're kind of like a grunge slash metal kind of band, very like Tool, very Alice in Chains kind of. And then I do occasional live guitars for a band called Garden too. They're a little bit more like thrashy, a little bit more metalcore. So that's what I've been up to.
Cool, cool. And now, to my knowledge, of course, Baron Praxis and Necrogarden have been pretty tightly knit as far as playing shows together, correct?
Yeah, the past like maybe year or so, because just I'm in both bands, so
Yeah.
helping each other out, stuff like that. Garden gets a show, I try to get Baron on it. Baron gets a show, we try to get Garden on it, that kind of thing.
Gotcha, gotcha. Gotta love that camaraderie. That's what
Yeah,
it's all about in playing live music, right?
just having fun.
Absolutely, yeah. All right. So now that we know a little bit more about you, I gotta know how did you get started in music? Like, what inspired you to get into playing the guitar?
Can I say Guitar Hero?
Go for it. If
So,
that's how it got you into it, feel free.
I mean, I always kind of wanted to play guitar, like even when I was like really, really young. But it wasn't until I got, I don't know, like Guitar Hero 2 or Guitar Hero 3, something like that. I started learning about all that kind of music because before that I was like pretty much all like rap and like hip hop. That's like basically all I knew. And then I got
Yeah.
Guitar Hero and I was like, oh shit, like this is like really sick. So then at that point I was like, I wanted to learn how to play guitar because I wanted to learn how to play like all those songs and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So that's kind of how I got started, probably like around like 2007, 2008, somewhere around there.
Gotcha.
That's really like when I really first started, and then it was just like practicing like hours every day. Like I'd come home from school, the first thing I'd do is I'd like pick up my guitar, plug it in, and just start just playing.
hmm Now, I know Children of Bodom is one of your favorite bands. Were they part of what got you into playing guitar outside of just Guitar Hero, or were they more of a later development, one of the bands you discovered later on?
A little bit later on, I want to say that was probably around like, so like I started like 2007, 2008. I probably first heard about them 2009, 2010-ish, somewhere around there. Um, and then I started listening to them, but that was the point I was like, there's no way I'm gonna ever be able to play this. So I was just kind of
Yeah,
like, I enjoyed the music. I didn't try to play it or anything like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And then later on, I was like, I kind of like really sat down, really tried to, kind of study it, figure it out. And then it got to the point where like Alexi was like one of my big, like, I wish I had the guitar here, but it's like at the Barron house. But like
hmm
he was like one of the big, like, few people that I like really looked up to in terms of like guitar playing and stuff like that.
Yeah. Um, so would you say that he's one of your biggest current musical influences, or just just generally having a little
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah. I mean, there's him, there's Ingve, there's like James Hetfield, Kirk Hammett, like very
Mhm.
early on, like those two. James is like just right hand, his like picking technique is just nuts. His down picking is insane.
Oh yeah.
So it's like I spent so many hours just like learning Master Puppets, all down
hmm
picking. So those guys definitely. Um, God, you put me on the spot now. I'm just trying to think like I have them all in my head. Once I'm asked about it, I'm just like, oh, they're all gone.
Yeah.
But I'd say probably like, yeah, Alexi, Ingve, James Hetfield, Kirk Hammett, Dave Mustaine was another one. I was really big into the whole like whole thrash thing too.
Mhm.
So like a lot of those bands and stuff like that, I was really big into. So
No, that's pretty neat. It's funny you mentioned Ingve actually, because I've only recently gotten into him with like the past year and a half, maybe,
yeah,
which is kind of funny because I've always liked really melodic technical stuff, but for whatever reason, I just never picked up on any of his music.
yeah,
Um, but once I got into it, absolutely phenomenal guitarist. He's just made so much good
he's
music.
he's a genius. He's
He
really
really
just
is.
because it's like it's super fast, shreddy stuff, but there's still like some kind of like somewhere in all of that chaos, there's like is still some kind of like melody or something there
Oh
that
yeah.
like kind of bring you in.
Yeah. And even as far as his songwriting goes, I really got into him on his non-instrumental stuff. So, like the mid
Yeah,
period when he was collaborating with a bunch of vocalists. And he makes like really, I don't want to say like poppy song structures, but they kind of are. Like they're very
yeah,
memorable, very verse, chorus, bridge, sort of
yeah,
stuff, which made it super accessible, even if, you're not used to like metal, which I found, really great getting into his stuff.
yeah. I want to say Perpetual Burn was probably not Perpetual Burn. That's another one, Jason Becker or Perpetual Flame. That
Oh
Ingve
yeah. Yep.
was the first one I ever heard. But yeah, Jason Becker's another one. Now that I thought of that, Jason Becker's another guy that I was just
Yeah.
like blown away by.
Oh yeah. Let's go away from your influences now for a second and go more into your specific writing style. So could you kind of like walk me through your process as a songwriter for Baron Praxis?
Uh, so for Baron, it's very much a kind of like collaborative thing. Like we kind of just get together, jam out a bunch of ideas. We'll just be, jamming around. We'll kind of hear something that sounds kind of cool and kind of build upon it.
Hmm.
Um, and then that's kind of how we just, build the songs and everything. We kind of just get together, jam it out, see what happens. We'll be like, hey, this sounds good as like a verse here. And what if we did that other section as like the chorus or something like that? And we just kind of fit it all together like one big like puzzle. Um, in terms of like how I usually write, I kind of just sit in front of my computer and just play a bunch and then kind of piece stuff
Yeah,
together
yeah.
on there on like Reaper or something like that
Hmm.
until eventually something sounds good.
Yeah. Now, when you're writing just in front of your computer like that, kind of in a vacuum, right? Like how do you kind of find inspiration? Do you sort of just like kind of, noodle around until you hear something that feels good or sounds good and you just kind of go with it or
Yeah, a lot of the times I'll just be kind of sitting down, just riffing around, and then
hmm
other times it'll be like I'll hear like a song or something like that, and it'll be almost kind of like I'm not really like trying to rip it off, but I'll be like, what if like if it was me that was writing this song, what if I did something like this instead?
hmm
Like I took it to this place instead and kind of just expand on that
Yeah.
and turn it into like a completely new idea kind of thing. I'll even put like a song on and I'll just be playing around to that, not necessarily playing what's in the song or whatever,
Hmm.
but I'll be coming up with like different like melody lines or lead lines or something like that, or maybe a different riff that kind of fits that vibe, but it's not really in the song.
Hmm.
And then I kind of build on that sometimes too.
Now, in your music, and again, I don't want to keep shoehorning you into Baron Praxis, but I know that's your main band, so we'll kind of go off that. Are there any like specific like elements or themes that you found have been, recurring in all of your music, besides just, the obvious stylistic um congruency?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's all very, I guess very dynamic is a good way to put it. Like it's all very like a lot of ups and downs and stuff like that. It's almost like every song you listen to kind of takes you through this almost in a way journey, I guess.
Hmm.
Because like it can start down here, and then it kind of just, builds super high and it's just, that constant like up and down kind of thing. So
Yeah.
like a lot of the music, it's all very, very like dynamic,
Hmm.
instrumentally and like lyrically too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Do you work on any of the lyrics for that, or is that
No,
the job of the other? Okay,
I am
okay,
a terrible,
yeah,
I'm a terrible writer when it comes to that.
Yeah,
So
I got you.
that's all our singer Ralph.
Got you, got you. All right, so do you have any like favorite song or album or just any musical project that you've worked on that you could say, just you're the most proud of?
That's probably still gonna be Garden State Tragedy, the first this year's comeback album I did.
Okay.
Justin, he's also in Baron Practice now, but that I want to say, because for all of us, that was our first actual real like album and first real release and first real experience doing any kind of like recording like that or anything.
Hmm.
And I mean, I try to listen to it now. It doesn't sound great with the
Yeah.
mixing skills and everything I had at the time, but like we managed to like throw a whole what like 10, 11 song album together or something like that somehow. And like I'm still very proud of that, like how it came out.
Yeah. And it's cool, even if you don't like how it sounds, with hindsight, it was a learning experience. I know
Yeah.
firsthand from my musical stuff, with my brother. Looking back, every single song we worked on helped us learn something about, like that would inform us for the future material that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that's the when I go back and listen to it, there's like you said, there's so much that we learned from it, but
Hmm.
also just kind of listening to it, I can kind of like envision in my head like where we kind of were like doing certain things and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to reminisce too.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I think just the way it all came together, we had no idea what the hell we were doing.
Yeah, yeah.
We put out the whole thing, we put together the whole thing. So definitely that's still the one that I'm absolutely like stoked that it came together.
Hmm. Since I did mention the music that I do with my brother, Barry May,
Yeah.
you had actually done a solo on one of our very first songs. What is it like for you doing like kind of a solo for music that you weren't part of the writing process for?
It's definitely fun. Sometimes it's a little bit easier than other times because sometimes it's kind of like this is absolutely kind of the style I would be writing in, and then other
Mhm.
times it's like completely not what I would be doing. But
Yeah.
I kind of got to figure out my way through it to make it still sound like something I would do, but also kind of serve the song.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm trying to remember the Bury Me one. I think that one came together pretty easily for me, I want to say. Um, because I remember you sending it to me. I can't remember exactly because I this was a while ago at this point. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but I remember you sending the track to me, and I think I kind of just noodled around for a bit, and I started to find things very quickly.
Hmm.
Um, there have been other times. There's a solo I did for Jake Rabin. I don't know if you know him, but I did a couple songs for him for one of his projects, and that was a little bit harder because he just kind of it was also he gave me a little bit more direction with it, and I was trying to um, what's the word follow kind of what he was saying, but also still kind of put my own thing on it. But I wanted to make
Hmm.
sure it was kind of like exactly what he was looking for.
Yeah.
So sometimes the constraints can kind of like sometimes they can kind of help, sometimes they can kind of make it a little bit harder. But I mean, um, what were we talking about?
I don't know. No, I know what you're saying though.
Yeah,
As far as the constraints go, because music is a very expressive thing. So when someone is telling you how to express yourself in your instrument, I can imagine that can be a little, I don't want to say it'll like hamper the quality of what you're putting out, but it'll
yeah,
definitely change how you kind of go about it for sure.
yeah. And I don't want to say that like I'm not saying that in a bad way either. Like
Hmm.
it's definitely just kind of like he already kind of had an idea where it wanted to go, and I was like, okay, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just kind of like trying to figure out how to get there.
Gotcha, gotcha. In regards to your first band with the album that you put out, you said you were very proud of. If you could go back in time, is there anything about the recording process or the songs themselves that you would change?
I mean, in terms of production, there's a million different things I would change. Just the way the just the way the mix is. Because
Mhm.
I actually kind of recently went back to that because we were planning on doing something. It didn't really come together because everybody's doing so many different things now.
Mhm.
But I went back, reopened some of those projects, and the mixes for those were just a mess. So I
Yeah.
mean, the main thing I would redo would be just mainly the production side of it, and the mix side of it, and everything like that, and make everything sound a little bit more balanced and everything. Um, Other than that, in terms of the songs themselves and how he played everything, I think everything on that in terms of performance and everything is was pretty top notch. It's mainly just the mix and everything like that that I have any kind of issue with.
I feel the same way, with my band, just because, looking back when we did our first, few songs, even before we got you involved with the Black and the Stormy Skies, we had no clue what we were doing. And I actually went back and we ended up re-recording one of those songs. And I'm proud of how it sounds. It's just I feel like maybe the re-recording kind of took away some of the charm. Like if I could take the
Yeah.
original recordings and just tweak the EQ and stuff and like the stuff regarding that, I feel like I might have been happier, but yeah, it is what it is.
It's always that first recording of a song that always sounds the best.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you
Because
ever try to redo it, it just does not have the same magic that it's had.
yeah, like there's a certain charm to it, right? Because even if
Yeah.
you don't like the mix, there's still just there's something just so identifiable and so raw about that first recording that just feels right. So when we eventually went to re-record it, as much as it sounded better, production wise,
Yeah.
it felt like it was still missing something, you know?
It's missing that just whatever, that charm or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Also, real quick, did you happen to know that that's actually on Metal Archives?
What is?
That Bury Me EP or demo.
You know what's funny? I I'm pretty sure I've seen it on there because oh, like one day, it was probably like last year or something. I could have sworn I was on the Metal Archives just looking for some other bands. And as a
Yeah.
joke, I put in Bury Me because I know
Yeah.
that there's a ton of small bands on
Yeah.
there that don't get much attention. I was just like, screw it. Let's see if there's anything on here. And much to my surprise, I did
There,
see that
someone
we
put
were
it up there.
posted. Yeah, just like someone from like Switzerland, like apparently like
Yeah.
put us on there. I was like, oh,
Somehow
okay.
found it, and yeah.
Yeah. No,
Because I
but
was
that's
going
super
through it.
cool.
Yeah, because I was going through it, and I think someone ended up adding Necrogarden to it,
Hmm.
like fairly recently, within the past month or so. So I was going through it, the Necrogarden's page and stuff like that, and I saw I was on Metal Archive since like 2019, 2020 or something like that, and then I
Hmm.
was like, huh? Why would I be on here? And then I
Yeah.
go, and it's because of the guest solo I did
Ah, haha.
because you guys were added on there back, whenever that was. I was like,
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. Man, how these things tie together. That's insane.
yeah, right.
All right, so let's go back to you as an artist for a second, right? So, are there any particular challenges that you found that you faced over the years as a musician?
A lot. I can't think of anything in particular. I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of getting ideas across, sometimes that can be a little bit difficult, especially especially with like, I guess example with like Baron. So because like I know a little bit of like theory and stuff like that, and then trying to explain stuff, or just in general, I guess trying to explain something to someone that doesn't know theory at all. I'm trying to, I'm using whatever words that I use or whatever vocabulary I have. There's that kind of like language barrier, and trying to get those ideas across
Mhm.
without being able to play them or anything like that. Um, but then in terms of, I guess, in terms of like playing guitar and stuff like that, just all the time. I'm always constantly trying to write stuff and then trying to figure out how I'm gonna play it later. That
Yeah,
always
yeah.
seems to be an issue. Um, but in terms of writing, I mean, it's all the time because then there's, I get writer's block a lot too, and then trying
Yeah.
to get out of that is just rough because then it gets to the point where you're kind of like second guessing everything that you're doing too.
Hmm.
Like, is this any good or is this just garbage? And then you kind of push through it and eventually you come out with something. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a constant thing where it's just like I'm always having some kind of, you know, whether I'm trying to write or trying to play, there's always some kind of boundary that, you always gotta push through.
Yeah. But I think in a lot of ways it's those challenges that kind of help shape us as musicians too, right? Because if we don't run into those things, we can't really have a basis for improvement in certain areas, going forward.
Yeah, any like I said before, anything, anything you kind of push through or anything you do, it's always kind of, a learning experience and you kind of grow from it.
Hmm. Now, speaking of that growing, how do you feel that you've grown as a guitarist or just as a musician in general, from your first band to where you are now with Darren?
Um, I do stuff that's a lot less shreddy.
Hmm.
Um, because the funny thing is, like with this year's comeback, I was very, very against doing any kind of guitar solos just because of the kind of music that it was.
Hmm.
And I forgot who it was, but one of the guys in the band was like, "You should do a solo here," and I'm like, "Okay, I guess." And then it just turned out to be the super shreddy thing, and I'm like, "Okay, fine. I guess I'm cool with guitar solos again." And it was always these super notey things. As time went on and everything, I'm much more about just like a good like melody or something like that, rather than just trying to play fast. Which I like trying to play fast, but at the same time, there's like a time and place for it. Like I kind of realize not every song needs to have like 20 notes a second.
Yeah, yeah. That's the inner Ingve in you coming out some days,
Yeah,
right?
I was about to say I don't have to go full Ingve for every
Yeah,
song,
yeah,
full
for sure.
Ingve or full Buckethead for every song.
Yeah. But I think it's that variation, between the two. It's like the happy medium that makes it
Yeah,
interesting. It's not like, either full throttle at all times or just, underplayed at all times.
yeah.
I know you mentioned that you've been a very active collaborator with Necrogarden, and obviously, you've done some solos for some other bands. Are there any artists that you've been hoping to collaborate or other, kind of bands that you have collaborated with in the past that you're particularly happy to have been involved with?
The thing is, I'm always very kind of content with where I am. I'm like
Hmm.
always kind of like taking in like what I'm doing at, like in the present time. So I don't try to think like, wish I was doing something else or,
Yeah, yeah.
but like, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to say I'm pretty happy with where I am right now. I mean, the only thing I would say is like, I do miss playing drums. So if any bands do need a drummer,
Oh, I
more
actually
than
I didn't even know you played drums. That's interesting.
yeah, I haven't actually like played. So with Necrogarden, I'm mainly a live guitarist for them, like a live
Hmm.
fill-in guitarist. But there have been, I want to say, 2 or 3 shows where I did have to fill in on drums because their drummer Mark got like sick or whatever and then couldn't make it. So
Yeah,
there were 2 or 3 shows that I had to learn the songs pretty much the day of and
yeah,
somehow get through. But yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing would be like I would like to, be in some kind of project or something where I could play drums a little bit more because that's something I kind of do miss doing.
yeah. Just express yourself in a different way musically.
Yeah. Plus hitting stuff is fun.
Oh, believe me when I tell you, I know that firsthand. Yeah, I was never an exceptional drummer by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a good time
Yeah.
behind that kit. Going back to the live performances, because I know you were just talking about like learning stuff, the day of for Necro Garden. How do you feel that playing live has compared to working and recording for like studio material? Like how does that kind of fit in with one another?
It's so playing live is always, I feel, kind of more like the reward for all that time you put into the studio and everything like that. Because
Hmm.
when you're in the studio writing and recording and stuff like that, it's very, very, to me, very stressful.
Hmm.
Um, because you're trying to make sure everything's perfect, everything's as good as it can possibly be. When it's live, there can be a mess up here and there or whatever, but you're just there to kind of have fun and celebrate like what you just did and what you put together and everything like that. So it's a whole different vibe to me, and I honestly prefer playing live over the studio stuff.
Hmm.
um the studio stuff can be fun and messing around with like all the different gear and recording techniques and stuff like that's fun too, but like if I had to pick one over the other, I would definitely say just live is a lot more fun. It's a whole just different vibe.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, certainly there's way more energy, at least perceived energy, just based on, you have people who are reacting in real
Yeah,
time to you playing, which is always great.
and then you
Um,
take it back in,
yeah, it's like this positive feedback loop of
yeah,
you're bringing something out, you're getting something back, and it just keeps getting better as the show
yeah.
goes on. Um, And I certainly felt that as well because as you know, my band Carnal Irreverence, our very first live show was opening up for you guys. And that kind of, even though there was like four people in the audience maybe, it
Yeah,
still
I did
was.
feel bad about that. I was like, I need to be out there.
Yeah, yeah. No, but it was still, even without the audience, giving us something kind of back, it's just such a different vibe being on a stage and performing
Yeah,
something in one take. Whereas in the studio, you can give it a million takes because, digital makes it so easy to do
yeah.
re-recordings, to get it as perfect as possible. But you start to kind of like lose the magic. Whereas when you're playing live and everyone's sort of just going full throttle, it definitely gives you a completely different experience.
There's definitely that like fight or flight aspect to it
Yeah.
too, where it's like, okay, you got all the adrenaline going, everything,
Hmm.
you're ready to go and all that, and then you
Yeah.
have like just the amps and the drums just blaring right at you.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like the best feeling ever.
Oh, absolutely. Are there any like particularly memorable or like funny moments that you've had while playing live with any of your bands?
Uh, oh man. I mean, there was when we did our album release show for this year's comeback, that was definitely like I that was super, super like I'm never gonna forget about that. We also did this like we tried to do this cover of Bohemian Rhapsody, which we did it much better in practice, and then when the show came, it wasn't that
Mm.
great.
Yeah, yeah.
We like nailed down those beginning harmonies like during practice like so well. And it kind of came time to play, and it was like it all just fell apart. So it was
Yeah.
like, okay, everybody here knows the song, right? Just sing along.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think what I mean, that's probably I guess I would count that as both, just because like it got to the point where it's like at first it was a little embarrassing, but then it was just like everybody's having fun. It's just fun,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Now, with the album release party, what was it that made that memorable for you? Was it just the fact that you were celebrating the release of like your first record, or was it something else about that show that made it so exciting?
it was really that, just kind of the fact that hey, we did this, we put together over the course of like a year or however long it was, and we finally put it out, and now we're playing through a bunch of the songs, stuff like that. Everybody's I think that was probably one of the bigger like crowds we played to, um like in this year's comeback. So that was it was super super awesome.
Hmm.
uh, everybody there was just having a good time, so that's probably it's mainly just because of the we put out the album celebrating all that kind of thing. There's that one, and then there was one with Baron we played back in April. We played I think it was second intermission. Necrogarden played first intermission, Baron played second intermission during a Devils and I think it was versus the Blue Jackets at the Prudential Center back in
Oh,
April.
really?
Yeah, that was awesome actually. I'm probably gonna say that one over this year's comeback one.
No, that's super cool. How'd you
Just
get that one set up?
So Jeremy just has this way of getting in contact with people and figuring things out. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
he told me about that. I was like, hey, you have this person's number that you were talking to, and you might, so I can see if they have any other spots available. So I hit them up about like Baron possibly being on it, and they were like, yeah, we got another spot here. It's actually the same day as Nectar Garden if you want to, play with them. And I was like, yeah, sure. So we got box seats for free, and we had all our gear like loading like through the back, like the employee entrance of the
Hmm.
Prudential Center.
Yeah.
So we got to go through the whole thing. It was just like it was super
No,
cool.
that is neat for sure.
We all got to take a picture on the ice afterwards too. So that was awesome.
That's sick. So you've been a musician since early 2000s, right? So you've been obviously at this for a while. So how do you manage to navigate um I don't want to say the music industry because I don't think you or me would really consider ourselves a part
Yeah.
of the broader music industry. Um, but just, being someone who creates music as a musician, how would you say that you stay true to your artistic vision?
Just kind of doing whatever I feel like I feel like doing, I guess. In the sense of, I'm gonna write or play what I want to play,
Hmm.
I'll always kind of, if someone else has like an idea or something like that, or um something has some kind of say in like a riff or a solo or something like that, like I'm definitely open to suggestions and stuff like that, but
Hmm.
it's never to the point where I'm like, hey, I'm kind of sick of this metal thing, I'm gonna just start writing pop music now to hopefully kind of, make a bunch of money or whatever. I kind of just
Yeah.
do, like what I kind of want to do.
Yeah. Because obviously, I mean, there are a lot of artists, especially once they become more popular, they start, to an extent, compromising their own vision for the sake of, certain producers who want bands
Yeah.
to perform a certain way or sound a certain way, or for fans so that they sell, such and such amount of records. They have to adapt their
Yeah.
style as opposed to staying true to who they are as musicians, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Well, I'll name one band, Fall Out Boy. Yeah, their last album was pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, Before that though, not that great.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, though, Infinity on High. What a classic.
Yeah, Cork Tree and Infinity on High are my
Yes,
two.
sir.
Like, yeah, and after they got back together, it was just disappointment after
Yeah.
disappointment.
I haven't really kept up on them too much, so I can't comment on any of their newer material. But based on what you're saying, I don't feel really compelled to do so.
Yeah, their last album that they just put out this year is okay. The first
Hmm.
single that they put out, "Love from the Other Side," I think is what it was called, is really, really good.
Hmm.
It's basically if old Fall Out Boy wrote a song with the knowledge that they have now. Like, it's
Yeah.
all just guitars, drums, all that. There's like no hint of pop in it at all.
Now, that's not to say that I will ever judge any musician for the music that they put out, because I think
Oh,
music
absolutely
is, of
not.
course, a very personal thing. And in the case of Fall Out Boy, let's say that they weren't pressured to make music like that. Let's say that was their actual vision. Just like how Guns N' Roses, they just put out a new song, which I think sounds like garbage. But I'm not going to judge them for it, because if that is Axl's vision and he wants to create art, in that style, I will not, of
Yeah, it's
course,
like,
judge
who
him
am I
for
to
that.
judge somebody else, like what they're writing, what
Exactly.
they're putting out, or what they like or what they don't like?
Yeah. It's like, as much as I don't like pop music, I'm not going to go out of my way and just say all pop's bad.
Yeah.
Just because if that's the style of music that you're a part of and you need to express yourself through that, that's great. Music is a great thing, and I think it's amazing that everyone can, do something regardless of the style that they choose to be a part of.
Yeah, they're like putting, their blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. So who's anybody to say like you're doing it wrong?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, speaking of musicians on a more specific, level here, what advice would you give to someone who's just getting started in music and really hasn't figured out their thing yet?
Pick up an instrument, whichever one, you you happen to gravitate towards, whichever one you want to play, whether it's guitar, drums, piano, whatever. Um, and just, you know, put on some of your favorite songs and just kind of play along to them. That's kind of what I did for the longest time. I didn't even really play with anybody, like anybody else, until probably like around high school or so. So it
Mhm.
was all just kind of by myself. So, I mean, just pick up whatever instrument, start learning some of your favorite songs, stuff like that. Um, Lessons can help. Um, I never really took any lessons. I kind of just learned from playing songs. And I mean, there's so many like good like tab websites out there nowadays. Like, it's so easy to just look up a song and kind of figure out how to play it, either through that or through YouTube or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
just kind of pick something up and just play what whatever music you like listening to. That's how I did it.
All right, we're getting into the silly questions here. Not so silly. It is still a legitimate question, but do you have any particular guitar in your collection that you just cannot live without? Like it is just a prized piece in your collection.
I mean, the Alexi V is definitely one of them. But I'd say uh definitely the Alexi V.
Gotcha.
Either that or like I don't know if you can see it. This one over here, this PV Strat thing just because this was like my first guitar. So it has a lot of sentimental value. But like in terms of like one that I always need to play, definitely the Alexi B.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. Now, how do you know, speaking of gear, right? How exactly do you go about choosing a specific guitar, whether you know, go into the studio to record something or if you're doing a live gig, like how do you choose which one from your collection that you're going to be using for that?
Um, so I have my main ones, and it basically all comes down to tuning
Hmm.
personally. Because I have them all tuned to different things, set up for different stuff. But I mean, I like playing guitars with Floyds on them. So it really comes down to like the Alexi, and I have so I'll use the Alexi for any kind of drop tuning stuff, drop D, drop C, whatever. Um, and I have a Jackson Kelly that I'll use for any standard stuff, so like E standard, D standard, and then I'll have a pitch shift on my pedal board to
Hmm.
kind of adjust however much I need to adjust it. Um, in terms of studio though, um, just A being a bunch of different guitars, see what sounds the best for any particular song. Um, I got a couple new guitars from Solar, and we're gonna once we start recording this next thing, I want to try those out too because they had some buy one get one free sale, so I was like, I'm not gonna not buy a guitar and get
Yeah, yeah.
it. But one of them's got Nevertune on it, so I'm really hoping that one sounds good on the record just because it makes tuning so much easier. Um, but I'm also a active pickup kind of guy too, so as long as it has active pickups, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna start winding down now because I only have so many questions here to go off of, right? But what can we as your audience, right, expect from you and your projects going forward?
So Baron does have a couple of we have quite a few songs written already for the next album. We're hoping to drop that sometime. I don't even know yet. I think we want to say sometime in the summer. We're gonna try to get a couple singles out. I want to say early next year, maybe sometime around March. I wanted to say I can't remember off the top of my head what we were saying, but I want to say somewhere around March is when we're probably gonna start dropping our first single. Um, as far as Necro Garden, we got a couple songs. We got like I want to say an EP. So with Necro Garden, I'm not too involved in the recording side of it, but we got like an EP coming out that we're working on. So next year is going to be a big year for Baron and Necro Garden, I want to say.
Awesome, awesome. And I assume hopefully some shows involved along the same time
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah. Baron and Necro Garden both are actually going to be playing at the Prudential Center again this year. I want to say
Cool, cool.
probably around the same time, sometime in April. I want to say it was
Nice.
either March or April. So some big stuff coming.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's awesome. And I just realized that sort of covered the last two questions, actually. Um, Now, was there anything else, just generally speaking, regarding you, regarding any of your projects, literally regarding anything we've talked about so far that you wanted to address before we end it?
um, I guess just keep an eye on, Baron's social media, Necro Garden's social media, stuff like that. Keep up
Mhm.
with what we're doing, because we're going to definitely have a lot of stuff coming out within the next. I keep forgetting that it's literally the end of the year. It's already December, so
Yeah, yeah,
um, within the next couple months of 2024, we're going to have a lot of stuff coming out. So follow us on Instagram, follow us on I don't know YouTube, whatever just to keep up with what we're doing.
yeah, for sure. And I'll definitely put your links for all your stuff down in the description so all my viewers here can go check that out. And I recommend you do because obviously Necrogarden and Baron Praxis, you're both incredible, incredible bands. Love the stuff you guys have put out. And looks like that's going to be about it. So, Nick, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show from there. And I'm really hoping that, my band can get a gig with you guys again sometime in the future. We have some potential to play with a few other local metal bands in the coming months. We haven't really worked
Okay.
out when or where, but I'll definitely keep you updated on that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I gotta check go to another one of you guys' shows. I was gonna try to go to the Dingbats one, and then I guess whatever, I think it was Liam that got sick or whatever, and then I ended up getting sick and I was just like, I
Yeah.
can't do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. No, that sucks. The Dingbats show, luckily, the sound guy recorded the entire thing. So if you did want to see us, post the show,
Yeah.
it is on YouTube actually. So
Oh,
I'll
okay,
also
yeah, I'll
link that
definitely
in the
check that
description
out.
for
Yeah.
everyone too. All right. But yep, that's going to be about it for tonight. So once again, Nick, thank you so much. And I will catch
Thank
you
you.
later. All right.
All right, I'll see you.
All right. Take
Thank
it
you.
easy, man.